Whether you're watching your favorite NBA team at the arena, the bar, or hanging at home, grab an ice-cold Michelob Ultra and enjoy every moment of the NBA season. Stock up today and watch your team drop buckets with a bucket full of ice-cold Ultra. Michelob Ultra. Superior light beer.
Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2026 Anheuser-Busch. Michelob Ultra. Registered light beer. St. Louis, Missouri. Must be 21 plus to order alcohol. Alcohol available only in select markets.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
All of a sudden, there's just one province remaining, and we're not going to know what to do with ourselves. Let's start the show. Hello and welcome to the Intro Show, your home for all things Irish rugby. Joining me tonight, we have Adam, Ben, and David, all on a Zoom call for a change. It is great to have you all with us again, lads. Thank you very much. Adam, I'm going to start with yourself. It was a weekend of rugby without Ulster. Was it peaceful for you?
Yeah, it was very peaceful. You know, you go outside. I went outside in my grass and with my bare feet. You know, touch the grass. Felt the breeze in my hair. Things like that. You know, it was quite peaceful, but it was also like fairly enjoyable to watch other teams. You know, I didn't do the podcast last week because I was still in denial. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm like, oh yeah, I've got podcasts to do. So now I'm like the neutral observer, which is weird.
Yeah, well, we'll have a lot more on Ulster coming next week. This week as we record it, in case Adam gets confused. This week as we record it, next week we're going to look back on Ulster and Connacht season. There's a lot of symmetry, so it actually works out really, really nicely. Ben, you weren't with us last week either. It was just myself and Dave. Your thoughts on maybe not the European final, because that would be a bit cruel, on just kind of the rugby at large over the last couple of weeks, because it does kind of feel like we got so happy a couple of weeks ago and now it's gone.
Like I had family over last week, so unfortunately I did get to miss the review of what was one of the best hate watches I've ever had of this sport. There was so much to love, so much to hate. I'm so sorry, David. But again, look, last week was fine. The season is finally over. Thank God. Let us never mention 25, 26 again. 2 more games left. Yay. Yay.
Maximum of 2 games left. In terms of the provincial season. Actually, on that, we've been doing a predictor league the whole way through the season, and you've got a new number one in that. Yeah, you wouldn't know. You're way down the leaderboard.
Who's lower down, me or Adam?
Actually, I'm going to double check here now. This is again, this passes under the things that aren't great podcasting. But sure, fuck it, we ball. In fourth place is Ben with 75. Yeah. Then it's Adam with 76, and then there's 10 spots between them. So Adam and Ben can no longer finish in the top 2. That's all I'm going to say. Because
we can if we do the Autumn Nations Cup
League. We're only going to do the Ireland games, because if we only do the Ireland games, we'll finish at 125 games.
We're also going to do the World Cup as well, baby. Woo!
We're not doing all 104 soccer matches. Jesus Christ, no one deserves that. Not from us.
But we could.
We could. We will. We might do an Inter
We're
Pro show.
only doing the Ivory Coast games.
Exactly. Like any good patriot, we'll only do the Ivory Coast games. But gentlemen, and
the Ivory
those
Coast
at home,
is full.
Cote d'Ivoire. We'll start tonight's proceedings in Glasgow, where the Scottish Kings had too much for Stuart Lancaster's stern Connacht side in a really entertaining game. Um, to kind of start on Connacht for a minute, opinions may differ. Connacht had a very good season. I think it's fair to say. I think they surpassed expectation. The fact that none of us were probably nailing them to top eight at the start of the season with any real confidence like we did for the other provinces probably tells you a lot in and of itself. They squeezed into eighth place. I would have no qualms over this game. I thought the better team won. I thought Glasgow were really, really good without being incredibly clinical. That may come back to bite them. But for Connacht, and again, we'll get onto this, we'll have that show with Adam, with myself, and with two new contributors to the Global Game Night family coming next week. I'd be very happy with Connacht's season. I think it was, as they go, like Stuart Lancaster has laid down an identity on both sides of the ball. He's brought through younger players. I would have qualms about their how much of their power profile is going to be leaving the building with Ainger and Joyce and Dowling. Although Dowling is retiring on medical grounds, to be fair. I'd have qualms about that, but apart from that, I think it's been a very good season. And you have a game like this where Connacht were outsiders, probably the most likely away team to win, deservedly, but outsiders, and they did put up a good fight. And they were still in this game. Like Glasgow's ability to turn it on is more got to do with the fact that they have more X factors. They have more power. Thought Kyle Stain was incredible in this game. Like he is just like I've said it for a while. He is the best winger in Scotland. Like he's the most well-rounded winger in Scotland, and he was brilliant. But for Connacht, looking back, eighth place, Champions Cup rugby next year, like they're guaranteed to be getting either a Bordeaux. Obviously they can't play a URC team, so maybe not guaranteed, but you're probably going to get like a Bordeaux or a Toulouse or a Bath or a Northampton or someone like that. Like that's not a bad way to go. Do you know what I mean? They obviously can't get Leinster if Leinster go on to win the URC. That would make it guaranteed for them then to get a top team from the other two leagues. And that would be great. I'd love to see I was having this conversation with someone else about like the Christmas games. I know there's only one Christmas game this year, but like let's see Bordeaux in the depths of winter in Ireland. Let's see if lightning can run in a monsoon. Do you know what I mean? Let's see this because that's what Champions Cup rugby is all about. And then you kind of remember actually they fucked with the format, and knowing our luck, Bordeaux will be at home in December, and we
They've
won't
also
get to
messed
see
with the
that.
seeding, haven't they? Where like only
They
the
did
top
two
fours are
2 years ago.
guaranteed.
So the way it is now is that your Champions Cup winner, your top 14 winner, URC winner, and Premiership winner, the
Top the
Prem,
pool.
they are the four top seeds, and everyone else is in an open draw. Apart from permutations that like two South African teams can't be together, two Irish teams, things like that. But that's just a mess. Like it was better the way it was, where you had actual seeding and you had these better groups. Like last year we had like one dud group where it was like Stormers, Quins, um, who else? Sale, like dud teams. Like Stormers in Europe are a bit of a dud. But anyways, that's nothing got to with Connacht. Thought Connacht were brilliant in this game for passages. Scrum was a bit of concern, to be quite honest. We'll get onto that maybe in a bit, Ben. But David, to kind of bring you in here, like Glasgow were too strong in this game. There's no shame in that. But I think if terms of the URC picture at large and kind of putting on your Leinster hat as well as your Connacht hat at the same time, that tells us a lot looking ahead at the next 2 weeks as well as back on Friday.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I mean, I think um sorry, can you say the question again?
I'm just
The
saying that
just the jumping off point.
the Glasgow being as good as they were, we can
Yeah.
dig into that from a Leinster perspective as much as you like, but also Connacht. That's probably a level that Connacht aren't at right now, but that doesn't take
It
away from their season.
No, not at all. I mean, like at the end of the day, Connacht suffered from the their positioning in the table. They were eighth, so they played the most consistently high performing team in the league. That was always going to be a lot to overcome. It's probably a testament to the form they managed to put together in the back half of the season, that myself included, a lot of people felt that game was the one that we were most likely to see in a way winning. Didn't transpire that way, but they pushed it close. And I know I think it's like, Connacht are not I don't want to make it out that they're criminally underfunded. They're not. They do get their funding from the IRFU, like the other three provinces. They're the smallest population wise. There's a variety of other factors there, but they no, I mean, in comparison to how they've gone in seasons before, it's a massive jump up. I think they'll be frustrated that they didn't take more advantage of the Challenge Cup. I think Ulster, who we can come around to later, took full advantage of that, and I think we'll see the benefits of it, even though they weren't able the URC go their way. But I think it's even the fact that the game ended the way it did. It was a two-score game. There was a bit in the middle there where Connacht just kind of took the foot off the pedal a little bit. You can't go that long without scoring in a final like that or in a quarterfinal like that. And they just took too long to come back into it and left themselves a little bit too much to do against a team like Glasgow, who are more than capable of scoring tries. So you need to keep that scoreboard ticking. They let it slip for a little bit too long, left themselves with a little bit too much to do. But this is a team who very much could compete. Like they didn't look outclassed by Glasgow. They didn't look like they'd shown up just to get walloped and sent home. And I think the biggest thing Connacht I think can take out of this season is they now have built consistency in a way that had eluded them for years, like not just last season, years before that. It was a consistent thing. I even said it going into other games at the end of the season, like the Edinburgh away one, that was a game Connacht should win, but it's a game in seasons gone by they would transpire to find a way to lose. They didn't this time. They actually played it incredibly well and got exactly what they wanted out of it. I think it'll be the real test now to see if they can carry that through to next season. They've recruited. They're losing some players, but they've recruited relatively well as well. They're getting some good players in as well. If they can get even half of the consist, like if they can get the consistency in the first half of the season that they got in the back half of the season, they'll finish first. They probably won't do that, but if they can bring even a little bit of it to it, they could target top four. They could certainly target a little bit higher up the chain. So I think it's overall it's a really positive season for them. I think that competing on two fronts is probably outside of their gift, particularly now that they find themselves in the Champions Cup. But no, I think they're showing a lot of the kind of promise we would have hoped to see from them in years gone by, and it'll just be interesting to see if Stuart Lancaster can keep building on that.
Yeah, no, it will, and like he has made a very good start. Like there's absolutely no doubt about that. He's made a great start to his time with Connacht. I know, how much money would you put on being ejected from the competition by his son at the start of the year? I don't think I'd have thought that Daniel Lancaster would still be the Glasgow starting 10. The one thing I will say, because obviously Nigel Carlin's with Glasgow as well, they are a great blueprint for what a province should be. They're tough as nails. They play a good brand of rugby. They're not the biggest team in the world. They're not the fastest, but boy, are they electric. They're well coached. They're absolute dogs to play against. I think Connacht found this. I've seen a lot of complaints online from other Connacht fans on about like the referee gave them nothing. Referee was Adam Jones in this game. I wouldn't agree. I think ultimately when you play the style of rugby that both these sides play, which requires an awful lot of gimmicks at the breakdown, pinning guys in, kind of changing their angles so it looks like they're coming in from the side, things like that. You're gonna get the rub of the green. It's gonna be 50-50. It's gonna balance out. And ultimately, yes, maybe Glasgow got more calls in this game, but that's just kind of the nature of it. Like it happens to Ireland when you go up against a bigger team, they have a little bit more power, they have a little bit more intricacy. But I still don't think that takes away from Connacht's performance. I still think they were very good. The scrum notwithstanding, that was a bit of an issue for both Elo and Bealham when he came on as well. And Ben, to kind of bring you in there, like the third quarter of that game swung it was in the melting pot. Next thing you know, it's gone. And it did kind of feel like Connacht were chasing tails. The scrum was a part of that. The replacement's not really gelling. And next thing you know, we've got like Joshua goes off, and players are, Hugh Gavin goes off after about 2 minutes after coming on, and becomes injuries, and just that swing in momentum. It just everything seemed to go against Connacht for about 20 minutes there.
Yeah, and like to give credit to Glasgow, it almost reminded me of that prime Leinster team that when am I frozen?
No, you're not.
My screen's frozen, apologies. But they come out between kind of 50 and 70 and just batter you and end the game. They didn't give Connacht an in. Now, I was a bit perplexed, I suppose the word to use, that Connacht pretty much emptied their bench at 50, changed the entire front row, and it seemed to hamper them more than help them. I know they were being punished to scrum a little, but they were getting around the pitch relatively well, and the cohesion, even if I hate that word, kind of lost them for those 15, 20 minutes, and Glasgow punished them in a way that they have done to every team, deservedly are top seeds in URC. And there's no team in the league that's better at holding on to a lead than the Glasgow Warriors right now. Like, you can see what Lancaster tried to do. We kind of saw they were losing physicality game fine, but it hurt them more than it helped them. And I know I'm going to get hampered for it. I'm going to get killed for it. I'm critical of Connacht more than most people are, but they were doing so well. They were well in this game. And then one or two baffling-ish decisions from a personnel standpoint took it away from them like that. And look, full credit to Glasgow. They showed why they were top seeds. They ran through them. They got, was it 3 tries inside 12 minutes
Something
to pretty
like
much
that.
end the game.
I'm not sure if that includes the disallowed try. I think it does, but it was something like that at one period, yeah.
Good. Like, it was just, we are going to play through you and we're going to make you look kind of silly. And they changed their entire front row to no real avail at that point. Glasgow did 10 minutes later, but the game was done at that point.
Yeah. And I think that's a depth question, obviously, like, because this conversation came up earlier on, and like, with regards to Munster, when I was doing a podcast on that, and like, are Munster stalling and everyone else kicking on? I actually think like Glasgow are going to regress next year. I wouldn't be surprised if other teams do as well, like Cardiff, for example, like the Lions regress next year. All of the provinces can have pros and cons about their signings and departures as well.
Like, I think it's hard to say that like Munster and Connacht are doing well in production of talent or in depth wise at the moment.
I wouldn't be too high on any of the 4 provinces at the moment, to be quite honest. On a grand level, But
like, I don't want to be too critical of Leinster and Ulster currently because they both made European finals. I know big picture, fine, but it feels like they have bigger depth, and particularly it's always been an issue with Connacht. And they have depth coming through. They've had Samilo. I know they had Devine come through, who's now leaving. They almost have better depth than Munster have currently for me. But it's just, can they get them into positions and can they keep that development line going that isn't, as Leo Cullen and Jess pointed out Saturday, going to Leinster and taking their cast-offs?
yeah, I don't know if it was in jest. It was certainly a comment.
It was at Simon Zebo.
We'll get on to Leo and Jacques and all of those towards the end of the show, so please do stay tuned. But I suppose on that, like, I am comfortable in the knowledge that I can look at 3 provincial seasons, and we'll touch on Leinster later, and look at Munster, as bad as they were, still came 5th. So okay, you give them 1 or 2 context points for that. Ulster had a good season, but ultimately the arse fell out of them, and they missed out on all their goals. So they also, by their own standards, failed, but still progressed. And Connacht had a good season as well, but also, let's see it next year as well, because backing it up has been an issue for Connacht. Like, they made the semi-finals in 2023, missed out in the playoffs following 2 years. So, we do want to see them back it up. Like, I wouldn't be quick to celebrate any of these seasons too quickly. Obviously, Leinster could still finish with the URC, but still saying that, Connacht have had a very good season and better than most of us predicted, and we will hold our hands up because, we are of that age, thankfully, where we can admit that we were wrong, which is quite rare in this particular ecosystem. Yeah, do you know what? We'll stay in chronological order, and we'll go on to Munster's season coming crashing down as they are convincingly beaten by the Bulls at altitude in Pretoria. Ben, an expected end was how I put it down in the notes, because ultimately, when you read that team sheet on Thursday morning, you're like, okay, Munster won't win this game. And then 9 minutes in, they've lost Tom Ahern and they're already 7-0 down. And you're kind of thinking they have no hope of winning this game. And that's sometimes, we can analyse it till the cows go home. We could flip it for Leinster and say they were never going to lose. Munster were just never going to win this, were they?
This is what everyone's talking about.
Everything's on the table.
This is what champions come to take. This is what everyone came to see.
And the slam!
No do-overs. No second chances. No more Mr. Nice Guy. This is winner take all. And it's all happening now on the home of the NBA Finals. Don't miss it. June 3rd on ABC and the ESPN app.
No, unfortunately not. Now, as I said at the start, I'm glad this season is over and it's finished. And I can just kind of put it in the bin and just forget about it. It's like when you're getting an 8 a.m. team sheet on was it a Friday morning, like that's a hiding to nothing to start with. I'm I'm a little bit annoyed with how this game played out because it was both a perfect example of Munster's season, but also the most frustrating game in that yeah, we were 2 tries down inside 12 minutes. Tom Ahern is gone. We then do excellent work to actually bring it back. We get 2 really nice, well-worked tries from O'Donoghue and Nankivell. JJ plays really well in the build-up to both. We fluff a restart, which we've done numerous times this season, and we again find ourselves chasing a game at halftime that we're never going to pull back at altitude. Let's face it. Um, it was that excellent example of 15 minutes where Mulster looked competent, we looked fast, we looked fluid. Craig and JJ working excellently well, got the game back from 0 to 100. Like you're well in that game. And that's the last shot Munster fire in that entire game is 33 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's Munster's season pretty much in a nutshell where we blow and we blow and we blow and we look really well and then boom.
Can,
And
can
like
I throw it out there? Because as much as it is, and I do agree, it was kind of epitomizing Munster's season. There's also a very obvious point in that it took Munster 15 plus phases to score both of their 2 tries. And at altitude, and considering how taxing attacking rugby is in this day and age, I think it showed. I think the last 10 minutes of that first half, they were gasping for air, to be quite honest. And don't get me wrong, I didn't think they were going to win, even at
no,
17-14. But it just felt like, oh, they have used way too much energy here.
at
Kind
17-14,
kind of like Leinster's first half last week.
we were hoping at that point, 17-14, that the Bulls might panic a little and do something stupid as they do or did at the start of the season more frequently they have in the tail end. Um, Munster were like that bluffed restart wasn't of I don't know how to breathe and I don't want to catch a ball more so than anything
Happens the
else.
best of us.
It happens the best of us, God love them all. But look, take nothing away from the Bulls, they were excellent. Andre Pollard, I know we've made jokes in this podcast that I think I heard you say it on different podcasts. He runs like he's in gravy.
Mhm.
He was very, very good on Saturday. He did what he needed to do and that he didn't need to run. He just had to control the ball and pepper the Munster backfield and make us run and make us use the ball. And look, this season's over. It's done. The Bulls will take some stopping. I wouldn't bet against them winning up in Edinburgh. And then we might have a URC final here in Limerick. Maybe. Hopefully.
Yeah. Oh Jesus. That my brain, because I always deal in context and narratives given the job, I don't think that's a narrative I can take, to be quite honest. Because we'll have gone from one end of the extreme with like the Randall stuff and the redundancies, right to like this point in time where we have like the Cullen and Nina bar against the world, and then we'll have a final in Thomond Park. There would be no roller coasters commissioned at the level of velocity or veracity that this would hit. And we will touch on Munster season as a whole in terms of, say, redundancies and the start of the season and everything. We're doing that tomorrow night with yourself and another new contributor to the Global Gainline family. If you can't already tell, we're expanding the Global Gainline family. And we're still looking for a couple of Connacht guests and a couple of Leinster guests as well. So please do get in touch. That was smooth. But Adam, I'm going to bring you in here. I know you're wearing a Japan jersey and you are a big Sam Crean fan. So none of these things, have me believe you're a big scrum guy. But no scrum, no win. And Munster, for lack of a better word, were absolutely pillared in this scrum. And
Yeah.
it was it was costly. It cost them about 14 points directly.
It did, yeah. I think the Bulls pack though is absolutely ferocious. I was saying on the group chat as well, seeing the likes of Marcel Coetzee and Cameron Hanekom, just like running about with the ball in hand. It was really good. It was good to see in terms of like of course I wanted Munster to win. However, it was pretty cool seeing them like run about the place as well. The scrum was absolutely unstoppable. I also do think that the scrum in terms of a whole like if you look at the whole provinces, that's the biggest issue that we have in the country at the minute is our scrum. And I think the Munster games showed it, the Connacht games slightly showed it. I don't think Ala Alatoa was a great signing, to be honest with you. I think
I'd go back and forth on that insofar as he's played 18 games in a row since he signed. For a
Fair
30
enough.
for a 34-year-old side hit prop. Now don't get me wrong, he's conceded penalties, he's not been excellent. But if you sign a 34-year-old tight head prop and he has 18 gives in a row, you've got to take the rough with the smooth.
Yeah,
Because ultimately these issues go back 3 or 4 years. They're not all on him.
you're talking to an Ulster fan that's seen Bronson Ross play 20 times for his province.
Quite literally seen the rough and the smooth and the
Yeah,
round.
yeah, I've seen Bronson Ross and Kitsoff. Who's had the better performances? I'll let you make that decision. Anyway,
Can we please clip the at Lee? Can we clip that up, please, and throw it up on socials? I'm sure it'll do very well.
I'll do class. Anyway, but yeah, when you think about the scrum as well, I felt like it was really affected by the fact that Ahern went off in the 11th minute. That's a big player to have in the power in the scrum. You didn't have Ty Burn as well, which is also more power in the scrum. You've had
Or a
Evan
Dogbo or
or
Klein.
or Dogbo or both the Dogbos or Klein. You have a lot of power that's missing there. I know that I can say about the front row a lot, but I do feel like a front row is an issue for every team at the minute, all the provinces. When you look at the grand scheme of things, not necessarily Leinster, but Leinster have had their injury crisis. But you were missing a lot of power, and compared to the brute bulls, the business bulls as Hughes called them on the other podcast, they were making an absolute like with dinner out of your scrum essentially. That's how I can put it.
The business
Yeah.
bulls.
The business
They
bulls.
were business-like, in fairness. They were efficient. To be fair, and I said this earlier, I never had any real fear that the Bulls were going to go and put up 50 or 60 points watching this game because I was working on it, I was doing a live blog. It never felt that way. It always felt like they'd just go, right. Kind of like Bordeaux last week. It's like, we've this game won. Let's save our energy. Let's kick. Let's do
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Let's not flex our muscles. Let's not, risk it. And to be
They had
fair,
yeah,
they probably could have. They
they
do look good.
they had the game relatively buried by the first half. By the
I
first
think the first of the last two tries at halftime, that first one, that was the dagger. That was the, you know, ah, we've worked so hard and then we just cough one up. Do you know?
Yeah, and I also rate the fact that the Bulls also are a team that would, despite being a couple of tries up, will still take a penalty. Like I do rate that.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's something that we've really lost in rugby nowadays. Is like when you're a bit ahead and you just take a shithouse 3 points. That was a shithouse 3 points by Pollard.
Yeah. I mean, I respect it. Like, go for the three, do whatever. Do you know? And again, we'll kind of look back at Munster season as a whole. That'll be out Thursday morning, I believe, on this channel. And like you could really look at Munster season any way you want. And that sounds like such a stupid thing to say, but like you really could. Like, has it been a good season? Probably not. But at the same time, they came fifth by being as bad as we've ever seen them in any 10-game stretch. So that's okay. Has it been a bad season? You could argue that as well. Has it been an indifferent season? I think in terms of the vibes have definitely been indifferent. It's been a pretty shit place to be around in recent weeks with all the stress. And I do think it's not for nothing as well that, people go on about what heart did you show, what fight did you show, what this. Munster had to go and beat the Lions, practically saved a couple of people's jobs by winning that game and getting Champions Cup rugby. Then they come down here, they're down a shit ton of guys. Some of them didn't travel, like Byrne didn't travel, Crowley didn't travel, like they were out. And they come down and they come from 17-0 down and get it back to 17-14. Like they showed enough fight, they showed enough heart. The issue is that Munster, in my opinion, should be aiming for semi-finals every year. They've made two semi-finals in the last five, in 23 and 24. I think they've got to be hitting 3 from 5 ultimately. And you could say that last year was that year because they lost on a shootout and whatever, but they've got to be hitting 3 from 5 at least. I think Ulster have got to be hitting 2 from 5. I think Connacht have got to be hitting maybe three quarterfinals from 5 or four quarterfinals from 5. Like that's my expectations of the team. Leinster have never missed out in a semi-final, and rightly so, as they should. They should never miss out in a semi-final. So I think it is really interesting. And I think, if you're Munster or if you're Ulster to a lesser degree as well, you've got to be looking at Leinster and be like, lads, thank you so much. You've taken so much heat off us. Like, and I don't mean that to be shitty, but like Ulster get annihilated in the final, Leinster get well beaten in the final. Munster get well beaten by the Bulls, Leinster coaches decide to make themselves the centre of attention. Like, just thank you. Like a little thank you
Yeah,
card will do.
everybody clap.
Um, the one thing I will say actually is that Munster, a lot of Munster's injuries, Byrne, Crowley, Nash, Farrell, Dogbo, Milne, all in Ireland contention. They did like not necessarily all guaranteed starters. Byrne and Crowley are guaranteed starters, but not the rest of them. But that's still a heavy chunk of players because you look at back three at the moment, a lot of guys are out injured, for example. So that'll be interesting to follow as well. And the number 10 thing, oh, I don't want to do a number 10 debate again. But at the same time, at least if Crowley's
Jack
injured,
Murphy. Jack,
Jack
sorry.
Murphy's not going to travel. I'm just going to say it here. I don't know how you turned your camera off there
I
for
thought
no
you said I
reason.
thought I turned my microphone up and I turned my camera off.
It
But
just
Jack
changes everything as
Murphy.
well. Um, I don't think that Jack Murphy will travel. I actually think if Jack Crowley is injured and misses the summer, and Tyke Byrne is injured and misses the Jesus Christ and misses the summer, it's not a bad thing because it's what Ireland need. But anyways, um, just take a reminder to subscribe to get all the latest content here in the Global Game Night channel. We've got the Nations Championship still to come. It's like the Nations League, but without your Georgias and Albanias. So apparently it's better. I don't know. That's basically what I see from all those sponsored posts on Instagram. If you do like this show, share it
Are
with a friend,
Georgia
leave a
not
comment.
involved?
No, Georgia are involved, but I mean like your Georgia,
Okay.
Albania, Kosovo type stories from the UEFA Nations League.
That's fair.
Do you know?
I think you may find that Fiji playing home matches in Wales, Scotland, and Merseyside are the big games in this
Yeah,
in
you
this
you might
tournament.
be slightly biased on that argument, although I do understand where you're coming from.
The flag the
Um,
jeans, la.
and as we said, we are still on the lookout for Connacht podcast presenters. We do have one extra one secured, or contributors, I should say. So if you were interested, get in touch. We might even have room for an extra Leinster person or two as well. But finally, we're going to go to Dublin, where Leinster crushed the Lions, returned to a fifth straight URC semi-final, and yet somehow, just 3 days later, that's not what anyone is talking about, to be quite honest. I don't know how you did that without I don't know how you did that without the ads on the screen. But anyways, um, David, we'll start with the game. Right? We'll start there and then we'll branch out. Leinster won. They won convincingly. It's a big semi-final win. Happy out. Not much else you can ask for.
Yeah, it was. It was. It was a good game. I didn't go because it was past my bedtime. But I watched avidly
Ah,
on television
from
and
from the bed.
from the bed. Yes.
You and
And
54 other thousand people apparently. But anyway,
and well, 44. There were some people there. But yeah, no, it was good. There were points in that game where I thought we were going to make a much bigger deal out of it than we did. Like the first half, easy to forget because of what a um try fest the second half was. But the first half was a bit more of a slog. First try scored on 10 minutes, second scored on 15, and then kind of went away for a little while. The Lions came back, scored one of their own. And you do kind of, we've just been through it a little bit too many times. Thomas Clarkson gets a yellow card on 35 minutes. I've been through this too many times. I go, please, please don't do anything stupid here.
That
And
was categorically a stupid thing to do.
oh, the flip, yeah. I did hear it was an interesting quote from Comms, and it wasn't Leinster, it was Robbo. But it was if it's possible for someone to land softly on his head, he landed softly on his head. I don't know if I'd be that generous. And on the basis of that, I think Thomas Clarkson is relatively lucky to have come back onto the field. But yeah, there was a point there where I was like, oh, we're turning this into more of a game than we should. But then the second half happened and Leinster just kind of opened up and the one goal of the game was to get James Lowe a try so he could break the try score. And when, after winning, the one goal of the game was to do that. And it did become a comedy of situations where, I think after the fifth try racked up, we're like, okay, it has to be him next. And then Gus McCarthy comes off the back of a maul, and we're like, okay, it has to be him next. And then Jimmy O'Brien gets in the corner, Lowe is on his shoulder, and you can see O'Brien slams it down, cheers, looks over his shoulder, and has instant regret and is very apologetic. But makes up for it, not. But 4 minutes later, when he throws the last pass out wide to get Lowe across in the corner. So it's a great day from that point of view. 100th cap for James Lowe as well. There's a lot of questions around his contract situation. Um, nothing 100% definitive on that yet, but it is very much up in the air. And he's an older player as well. He's not an older man. He's only 34. But for a winger, if for any player, but for a winger in particular, that is getting up there. But it was a great day for him. So we can be happy with that one. Our injury profile coming out of it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't the best either. We have a couple of guys now under observation, as I think they put it, going into next week that we would hope to have back. It's not a gimme against the Stormers. That'd be a very big game. Joe McCarthy, Dan Sheehan, Tommy O'Brien, Ronaghan Kelleher, Gary Ringrose, and Tyke Furlong and Jordan Larmour are all listed as to be further assessed, having picked up knocks in the past 2 weeks. So they're including the match before as well. But yeah, obviously we would hope to get certainly some of those guys into the match next week. But yeah, the Lions were not there. They did not show up for this game. They had the odd bit of flair, because they have one or two decent players, but they were done, and they don't show up generally speaking in the Northern Hemisphere, and they certainly didn't seem like they had any interest in showing up for this one. Possible chagrin now because it would have been a semi-final in South Africa, but um, Leinster could only play the team that was in front of them, and although there barely was one, they still did show up and they still did score tries. And I think particularly for a Leinster supporter base that has been kind of rueful of the fact that try-fests are something that seemed like they were fading into the distance as we focused on blitz defense after blitz defense. It was a nice day out. It is a pity more people weren't there, but I can't go too hard on that considering I wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen every sort of comment because I weighed into this debate on Twitter. The
It's not like
dart,
you.
and it's very not like me. I'm usually so blasé. Like the dart strikes being one, or works being one of them. Firstly, drive, walk, get a bus. Like there's other means of
Yeah, there's
transport than just
a
If you
the
ever tried to
dart.
hundred.
drive in
It's
Dublin
one.
City, no, you're right. But if you ever tried
There's
to drive in Dublin
180,
City,
like
Yeah, but you could,
180 different
You can
types of
walk.
ways to get there. Hey, oh
yeah,
fuck!
it's
These are all talking. Oh no! I saw Dart.
Anyways, okay, that took me a minute. Um,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. It's a 180 joke for those who didn't get it. That took me way too long. Um, I think the whole like Aviva fatigue thing is kind of overblown at this stage. Yeah, yes, they have to get back to the RDS at some stage,
I
but
don't think
also
so.
it's not the reason people don't turn up in their thousands, you know? So I kind of go back and forth. But then at the end of the day, like, look, it's not great. If that was only other province, they get pelters. But Leinster decided, do you know what?
Yeah,
We're going to create the pelters anyway, so it doesn't make a difference.
I would say just because right reply and all that. I will say that I think Aviva fatigue is both a real thing and is overblown insofar as it is real. I know it's real because I feel it. But I think the Aviva in and of itself badly serves the fan base in much the same way as the stadiums the South African teams tend to play in badly serve them as well. It's way too big. No club, even, Bordeaux do a fantastic job, but their stadium's what, 30, 32, 34,000. No,
35 or 33, yeah.
no club is selling out 54,000 seats every week. Like that's just not doable. Particularly when they go from a stadium that was slightly under 20,000. So the fact that Leinster have done all right, like a mostly full RDS looks like a only barely full lower bowl of the Aviva, and then that doesn't factor in the premium tier as well. So you're dragging supporters up there too. So you can have reasonably decent numbers for a club game for a week to week match, and it looks bad in that stadium because it's way too big for what it is. I think in this case, on this weekend, it was a mixture of it is the bank holiday weekend, so not just the dart is out, but people are doing things. There's other things going on. It was a very late game. It was 8 o'clock in the evening. So that probably ruled out a lot of families. It certainly ruled out anyone who had a journey to make on their way home. And then more to the point, while Aviva fatigue might not be the only thing, knockout fatigue is the thing, and you can say this is a champion, this is a quarterfinal, this is a knockout game. It's a big deal. It's not a big deal to Leinster, and in the nicest possible way, it's not because they get there every year and they get past this stage
And also
every year.
considering the week before, like
And
knockout
that's
fatigue is a thing, and
my
like you have to factor in
my
that.
absolute next point. As with Ben's help there, it's really weird now, and I'm sure you're gonna touch on it. I know we other podcasts have touched on it as well. Everything that's going on with the coaches, there is a weird amount of dissonance now, where it feels like Leinster are going through a post season with the Champions Cup final and all that's come from that, and Leo Cullen and his position, and Jack Nienaber and his position, and they're going through a post season post mortem while still having two very big games to play. It's a really weird situation to be in, and it's not unique. Like I think the Premiership is still going on. I know the top 14 is still going on, so it's definitely not a unique position. But for a club like Leinster, where the Champions Cup is really the be all and end all, there is an aspect of, apparently for the fan base now, you can see it. They don't care. Like they might care more next week because it'll be semi-final. They'll probably care more the week after that if we make it to a final, because there's a trophy on the line and everybody likes winning a trophy. But if the follow-up to a Champions Cup final loss is a URC quarterfinal against the Fidelity Secure Drive Lions, who don't want to be there, that's a hard sell to anybody, never mind at 8 o'clock on a Saturday on a bank holiday. So I think there's a lot of caveats there. It was still kind of disappointing, but as I said, I didn't go myself, so I can't be too hard on people.
Ah, yeah, but sure you can. Anyways, I was kind of the reason I didn't interject there, even though you made good points, but I easily could have, because Adam's supposed to take the next question. He's still not back to the laptop. But oh,
I'm
magic! Well
back.
done,
Hello.
thank you, Adam. David, it could be pointed out, and you'll agree with me when you're explaining you're losing. Do you know? And I think this is kind of part of the debate: is if people can point it out, and you have to explain it away, it could be seen that you're losing that argument. Whether you agree with that or not, not just you, but other people, because I've seen Adam got pelters for it in the comment section, which is rare. Um, but I suppose to bring him in back from the dead and all that, um, Adam, because we get on to Leinster coaching comments in just a minute. Leinster played well. They attacked really well. They exploited space. They passed, really crisply. It's a fluidity that we haven't seen in a while. And I think, to their credit, if you take out the Bordeaux game, which is a massive thing to do, like it's the biggest game of your season, but if you take that out, they had been trending along a pretty decent direction. So this should hopefully help just steady the ship a tiny bit.
Yeah, I think, take away the 35 degrees. Like, if we can take ours away, they can take theirs away. Just saying, just
No,
on that
that's
East
not what I
Coast.
said. That's not
Anyway,
what I said.
I'm pretty sure you said it on a group chat. Anyway, but yeah, when you take into consideration their season and the start of the season that they had, what was it? How many losses in a row? Remember when we were all really confused at the very start of the season as to what was going on with Leinster rugby?
They
Not
lost
They've
enough.
three of their first four
Not
games.
enough.
Yeah, but it was one of those that we were all a bit confused, let's face it. I was. Anyway, it was one of those where I think Leinster are on the upward trajectory, but I feel like everything around them is falling apart, especially with what's came out today, which we will discuss at some point. But I don't really, with the narrative of Leinster being in this upward trajectory, whilst also having this like a cataclysmic loosehead prop crisis to the point where one of their loosehead props, who are quite good, is probably going to start for Connacht next season because of how good their depth is, and how the way that their depth is working, that everyone coming back, he's still good enough to play for another province. It sort of shows how Leinster have just battled their way through it. And I did say in the United Rugby podcast that my in a way, ideal URC final would be Glasgow versus Leinster in Murrayfield. I'd say that would be a really cool venue for it to be in as well. And Leinster being in this upward trajectory, hopefully take away all the the coaching stuff that they probably could win a URC as well. But yeah, I think there's a lot of positives to take in their league form ever since the start when we were all a bit confused.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into the meaty part of the weekend. So we started off with Leo Cullen biting back at an off-the-ball reporter about online trolls and basically anyone who goes against Leinster. Sorry, not putting word into Leo Cullen, but it could be perceived that what he was saying was anyone who goes against Leinster is a troll, considering the fact that he also brought up the likes of Simon Zebo to Premier Sports the other night. So you could understand if that's the line he was getting at. Then you had Jacques Niederbar say apparently I'm a devil in referring to Roy O'Connor's piece where he said that Leinster and Ireland made the deal with the devil in recruiting Dean Aber as Lancaster's replacement because of how his style of play is and how close he is with Rassie Erasmus. And the one thing that's standing out to me, what following this all is when you hear so often fans saying, just bite back at journalists, just bite back, just bite back. This is why you don't. Because now it's a storm in a teacup and it is a mess, and Leinster have no control over it. And you've had Bernard Jackman already being the first to get his speak in on a podcast today on the 42 Rugby Weekly Extra, which I thought he was excellent in. And I'm David, I'm conscious we'll get you. I might come to Ben first, not for any shit stirring reasons, but just because we haven't spoken to him in a while. It
Hello.
is it is a mess, Ben. You will agree, and ultimately, it just piles the pressure on Leinster now, because now everyone's talking about Leo and Shaq and the players and the results. There is nowhere to hide at this moment in time.
That that's kind of my big takeaway from it. I don't see what good it does to I don't think it helps the players at all. It certainly doesn't help Jack Nienaber, and he's starting to feel pressure hugely by his stuff this morning. It reminded me of any football fans, Ruben Amorim in his whole I was brought in to be manager, I'm not a head coach of anyone, and was sacked 12 hours later. Leo Cullen has always had a really good relationship with the Irish media. It's been enviable from a Munster POV, where we
It's been
win.
back and forth, I will say. It's always back and forth with Leo, but it's still a decent base point.
They've always had a really, I don't even want to say hampered relationship to a point, but it's always been nice. There's never been pelters really thrown at Leinster all that much compared to the other three provinces. Sorry, Connacht. We're now in a situation where their head coach and head defence coach and one of the most recognisable coaches in world rugby is actively calling out Irish journalists for writing pieces and not being complimentary. It's wild. It doesn't make any sense. I There was a piece from a Munster journalist this morning where he was actively saying, "I haven't seen this happen ever in his multiple years of covering this sport, and I can't think of a time it's happened previously, particularly in the Irish setup, where
I
we have
can't
had
either.
a coach
All
who,
I
for
can think
me,
of is Brendan
is
Venter's famous interview.
yeah, and like Leo Cullen for me is Irish coach incumbent. I know that people don't agree with me on that, but for me he was, and he's now slagging off the chief rugby correspondent of one of our national newspapers. And slagging off on the pundits of Premier Sport. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand what's happening.
It's weird. And I think David, you may have flagged it last week, or we flagged it in the group chat at least. Leo's comments after the game of almost being like, "We're happy to be here," were a bit strange. Like they were quite a weird thing to say after you've been trounced in the final. But I just keep coming back to like Nienaber, and not to just focus in on him because Cullen's a big part of this. McBride, Blaine, Sean O'Brien, everyone, they're all a big part of this. The players as well. Like last year after they lost to Northampton, he was just a defence coach. This year that they lose to Bilbao or lose in Bilbao to Bordeaux, he's thinking about his time because it's all him that gets pelters. And don't get me wrong, Jack Nienaber does get his fair share of pelters, right? But ultimately he was brought to Leinster to win the European Cup. He's 0 from 3. They're getting further away from it. You have to stand up and take it as well. And I'm not on here to defend just journalists or just defend Leinster or do anything like that. It's not my job to defend. But ultimately, it's my job to take both sides of the story and give an opinion. And right now, I would weigh heavily on the side of, you know, the Irish journalists and everything like that. They gave them a fair pass in 24, which I think was understandable considering how good Shoeless were. They got an okay pass last year, an okay one. They didn't get hounded. They didn't get dragged over hot coals like they could have been. This year, they did, but that was a culmination of the last 5 or 6 years. And I look at Nienaber and it feels like he's shirking responsibility and Leo's kind of push people away. And it's not healthy for the players, but also at the same time, and Bernard Jackman said it in the podcast, no one's talking about the players. They've underperformed in every final they've been in. Someone has to talk about them as well. Do you know? And no one is free from this because ultimately when you are at the very top of the game, which Leinster are, the spotlight is brighter. And I think that is the biggest thing that we're seeing from this. And ultimately, and we talked about at the start of the season, Leinster are less boring now, and I love it. I love it. Leinster were too boring for too long. They were too predictable. everything about them. You knew what was going to happen every week. Now you don't. I think that's fun. But David, from your perspective, firstly, do you think it adds pressure to the team now? And secondly, do you think we see a change at Leinster, considering that there's this wall of pressure that seems to be rising either side of the coaches?
Expedia and Visit Scotland invite you to come experience the beauty that awaits in Scotland. The sweep of wild coastlines, quiet lochs, and untamed landscapes. Fresh cuisine that feels rooted in the land. Come experience the kind of stillness that stays with you long after you leave. Plan your Scottish escape today at expedia.com/Visit Scotland.
I don't know. I don't know if it adds more pressure. I I don't I don't know. I think this team has been under the exact same amount of pressure at the same point every year for the last 5 years. Um, it's been the unfortunate truism of being a Leinster supporter, being a Leinster player, being in the Leinster coaching staff, that in every 12 months there's only one game that matters. And unfortunately, it's the one they keep managing to lose, uh, which is unfortunate. It's also, worth caveating by saying there's always another team involved, and they're usually reasonably good at rugby. So it is hard to do. It's kind of it's really rough on Leinster that this isn't a case of just like one team they keep coming up against and that team keeps beating them. It's going in cycles where it was Saracens and then it was La Rochelle and then it was Toulouse briefly and then now it's been Bordeaux, with Northampton in there as well. Like it's like everybody else goes through cycles and they come in. The healthy thing to do is to come in, be dominant for a year or two, win your trophies, and then dip back down. La Rochelle ended up in the Challenge Cup this year. Like that's where they've fallen down to. Probably, you know, feeling like shit, but maybe not facing quite as much scrutiny. Leinster are almost victims of failing at a much higher level, much more consistently. If they took a few years where they struggled to get out of their pools, more serious questions would be asked, but to be maybe more measured because there'd be an understanding of where they are. It's the fact that they keep getting within inches of that title and keep falling short. That's what calls into question. And the more often they do it, the more people are like, well, eventually they have to get across. And that's just not the case. The team changes every year. Sometimes by a lot, sometimes not by that much. The teams are facing changes every year. The tactics change every year. There is no guarantee. It's not an accumulator. There's no guarantee. You could get to 100 finals and lose all of them. Um, so that's hard on that side. On the coaching side, I think they have handled this all spectacularly badly. I think Leo Cullen seemed way too flippant at the start. Um, I do think there was an element of, people go to these guys, and actually I was listening to Sport Runner podcast with an old interview with David Gillick today, where he talked about interviewing athletes just after they come off the track and they're out of breath and they're panting and they're talking about a race where they might have just come fourth, and that's a hard place for them to be and to have to talk about it. Leo Cullen had just lost the fifth final as well. Like it wasn't just the play. Like this had just happened to him. Like when people are like, "Oh, we want to see you be sad." I mean, don't you think the guy is? I'd say he was in a state of almost delirium as much as anything else. And just in incredulity and incomprehensibility. And I think it is becoming true. I didn't know for sure at the time, but that this one was worse than the others because it was such a walloping, because it felt so out of reach. It wasn't like the other ones where you could cod yourself into going next year if we get that close again, flip the coin again, we'll get there. It feels like it's slipping even further. And I said to you before the final that that is the worst thing that can happen. Not that we keep getting to finals and we lose, but that we slip further and further back and we wish for the days when we are almost winning finals. I wouldn't be surprised if there was an element of that in Cullen. So I think he felt that pressure, and then maybe he felt the need to come back and try to balance it with other stuff, and now he's put under a slight bit of pressure, and his hackles come up and he gets defensive. And but I don't think he handled it well. And at the end of the day, he is the professional front of the organization, and Journalists are there to ask questions. I don't really have a lot of time for anyone. When a journalist asks a question in good faith, I don't really have time for anyone who conspires to take it as a personal insult because that's usually a way of trying to worm your way out of answering. So I thought that was weak enough, and I wasn't impressed by it. I don't think there will be change in terms of Leo Cullen because I don't think he wants to go anywhere. And realistically, I don't think anyone in Leinster wants him to go anywhere either. He does do a very good job in the organization. His on-field coaching role is minimal enough as it is. So I think Murray Kinsella said there is a move to move away from the ambiguity around the head coach role. So we may see him move upstairs more explicitly, or we may see him actually become head coach, which could be fascinating to see if he actually can do that job. But either way, I do think Jack Nienaber, having kind of given him caveats in the past, I thought the treatment he got after he ended up in the Springbok Hotel was a bit much. I think people were kind of looking to catch him out, as if acknowledging the end of his contract and the fact that he'd probably go back to South Africa for the World Cup wasn't, so obvious. We all knew that that was the plan from when he first signed up with Leinster. But I think he's now in a situation where he has taken the opportunity to be a head coach who isn't a head coach a little bit too much in that he's happy to stand over his work when it works, but when it doesn't, he doesn't seem to take the criticism particularly well at all. And if I had to wonder, I would wonder if he's used to, in a weird way, he was kind of built very well for the Leinster situation because he's kind of used to having his own Leo Cullen, except back in South Africa, it's Rassie Erasmus. And unlike Leo Cullen, Rassie Erasmus is very good at dealing with the media. The man kind of jumps on bullets just for fun as much as anything else. So Nienaber gets to take all the defensive credit. He gets to enjoy all of that. And actually, I'll piggyback off of a talking point I got from another friend today. I would wonder as well if Nienaber is looking at South Africa putting together some of their best um, performances mid-World Cup cycle, and he's not there and somebody else is their defense coach and doing a pretty good job at it. And it's not going well at Leinster, and he's over 3. And maybe he's looking around and going, what do I do next? Where do I go from
I agree
here?
with the end of that. I don't agree that he's looked at South Africa because ultimately I think he's Razzie's right hand man. He
Yeah, I don't
may
doubt that. And like in terms of a personnel thing, sure, but it's not. He had built an aura as this defensive, like that was what his defensive system was what allegedly got them those 2 World Cups, and it was the way they implemented it was complete dominance. Leinster weren't able to do the same. Now it might be because of the cattle, it might be because of the nature of a club season's a bit longer, it might be for a whole load of different reasons, but they have now kind of shown that they can do it when he's not there. Um, and I'm not saying he won't be able to get back in if he wants to, he will, but he might not have quite the same level of aura about him necessarily as he did when he left. And he certainly hasn't built any more in his absence. Whereas the Springboks in his absence have flourished. He has not in his absence from them. And so I kind of feel for him on that level. From a Leinster point of view, I think there's a lot of people who'd be very happy to see the back of him. But if we do, I think we need to be really clear about who we're going to replace him with. And there needs to be some conversations with other people because he's definitely, if whatever he's in charge of, he's not in charge of our attack. And that hasn't been firing either. So questions need to be asked around that too, as well as a plethora of other things. But um, I'm inching towards, I think there will be some change at Leinster next season, but I don't think it'll be Cullen.
Yeah, I'd agree in the main, and I am conscious of time, and we will have to hop off in just a moment. But I think that's a good synopsis. Ultimately, us people like us, media like us, podcasts, writers, in my own frame there, we don't dictate. Lena Bar was right. Ultimately, it boils down to Shane Nolan. Don't agree that it's the media who pushes people out of a job. I think that's a player coach dynamic thing that just doesn't ring true. I'm gonna go around the room really quickly. URC semi-finals this weekend. Adam, start with you. Who's in the URC final on 20th of June?
Glasgow and Ulster.
Ben?
Glasgow, Leinster.
Okay. David?
Yeah, Glasgow and Leinster.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Glasgow and Leinster. I'm gonna lock you all in for a Glasgow pick on this one in the predictions league this week. I'd be shocked. No Sasha, no party, probably for the Stormers. Gentlemen, we'll
Yeah.
leave it at that for tonight. We'll be back, as I said, on Thursday. Myself and Ben will be looking back on Munster's season, as we will do with Connacht, with Ulster, and with Leinster in the weeks to come. And next week, next Tuesday, you better all be here, our 50th show. Possibly looking back at a
Wow.
Leinster URC. I know we
50
started this.
shows.
We started this in the summer test last year. It's a long time ago. It's a
Oh,
lot
Oh,
of.
we get to have a party for the 50?
Do you know
A
what?
URC final
If
preview
you all
party?
want to crack out a drink and we'll all have jerseys on. We'll do that. But gents, thank you so much. As always, if you like what you see here, please do subscribe and let us know in the comments what you think. If you're interested in coming on board to the Global Game Line team, let us know as well in the comment section. As I said, we'll be back with Munster, with a regular show, and with a Connacht Ulster season recap all across the next 9 days or so, building into the Football World Cup, which we will not be covering. On that bombshell, good night.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.